Hmm. I want to welcome you to another Facebook and YouTube Live. If you're checking this out for the first time, this live stream we do every month, the second Thursday around 7 p.m. Central, to support and serve your needs as nurse educators. And my passion is to empower you with Keith RN with practical strategies to really strengthen and improve the clinical judgment our students need to transition to safe practice. And if we haven't met, my name is Keith. I'm the founder of Keith RN, and really my vision or mission and my passion is to really empower, again, educators to transform and bring about the needed change that we all need to strengthen how we teach nursing so that our students are better prepared for practice. As we really are a profession in crisis right now, and there's many things that every one of us as nurse educators can do individually and collectively to make a difference. And really my passion is to transform nursing education one educator at a time. So I want to thank you all for joining me tonight. And I'm coming at you from Louisville, Kentucky tonight. I'm speaking at a conference at Galen College on innovating nursing education, classroom and clinical teaching. So if some of you are going to join me for that tomorrow, we have a full day workshop. But I want to know who's joining me tonight. And if you just want to pop your name in the chat, put your first name, let us know where you're coming from. It's really powerful to use the internet to connect us as educators. We really need to be in community. We really need each other. And, it's really my desire to just really, be a connector and to really provide care for the educator. Yes, do I provide tools and resources? Absolutely. But that really comes out of my passion to, again, provide that care that you need as an educator, because, as nurses, we care and we need to demonstrate that caring, especially towards other educators, because how many of you know there's way too much incivility in our profession, and we can all be part of that needed change. And so I just want to welcome Erin. That's the first name of my daughter from Maine. Great to have you from the East Coast. Heather from Colorado. Jen in Phoenix. Wow, everybody from all parts of the country. Kalisa in Wayne, Oklahoma. Nellie from Indiana. Boy, we have got the heartland, the East Coast. Let's hope we got some West Coast peeps that'll join us. I know they're a little bit earlier than we are right now, but let me just pop in just a couple, just something in the chat here, and let me see what my chat is not working the way I expected it to. So I want to pop some links in. Here we go. Let me just move this up. There we go. Awesome. Well, I just wanted to share just one quick thing. It's kind of a plug. If you basically, it's not too late to register for the Kentucky conference. And so if you basically live in Louisville, in the surrounding area, you want to join us at 9:00 tomorrow. It's going to be a great event. And I just want to throw a last line out there for those of you that may be interested and live in the immediate area. So anyways, yes, absolutely. From Sandra from Florida, our thoughts and prayers are with your state and that entire East Coast. I mean, this is really something that I pray that God uses to bring us together as a country and recognize our need, that there's things out there that are bigger than us, and God is getting our attention, and our thoughts and prayers are with you. I know mine are for sure. So Sarah Kano, blessings to have you. She's one of our content creators on our clinical course. And thank you again for joining us. I just want to share, my heart is to just, before we jump into tonight's topic, which is going to be really good. We're going to I want you to stay with me. We're going to talk and keep it very real about what we need to do as nurse educators to really look at the trends from the NCLEX conference. Looking at some key takeaways. I'm going to just keep it really simple. We're not going to go deep in the weeds, but we're going to say if there's like one or two or three things that we must do as educators because of the insights from the conferences that have recently taken place that we must pay attention to as educators, we must do that. But, one thing I want to share, I want to keep it very real and even personal tonight for just a couple minutes. And I want to share almost a devotional thought on identifying your why as a nurse educator and why it matters. I think that, when you look at, us as human beings, we were created for significance. We were created to make a difference using the talents that we've been given. But how many of you know that the road is hard and narrow in nursing education, especially as a nurse educator? Oftentimes you don't feel valued, you're not paid or compensated the way that I know that we should be. And, we sometimes wonder, like, why am I doing this? We're in mid-semester right now and you're feeling the burn, and I've been feeling the burn in my own way for 13 years. And, I've enjoyed the journey with Keith RN. It's something that a door opened providentially, an invitation from Linda Caputi for a single slot at the Elsevier Faculty Development Conference in 2012, when I just shared my work on my case studies out of the blue, just an everyday educator, just trying to make a change from Benner's work. The door opened and I've been on a journey. And I'm tired, and I've not lost sight of my why. But how many of you know that when you are tired and you're feeling that early stage of burnout where you are just exhausted continually? That's me. That's me. I really need your thoughts and prayers, because I'm really not questioning my journey. But like many of you, do you ever wonder, am I making a difference? Is anything really changing in my classroom and my students? I know that for you as educators, we have different challenges. But for me, I step back at Keith RN and I just kind of wonder, 13 years I've invested my life. Has it made a difference? We still seem to struggle with the same challenges, but I am encouraged because I know that when I go to conferences, I get that feedback that's encouraging. But I'm just as human as every one of you are. And I'm no different. And I just want you to know that, I really want to encourage you tonight to know that you are making a difference. And, as we look at the crisis that our profession is facing, we really need to have that passion that we need to role model to our students. Nurses make a difference one patient at a time. We can save a life when we recognize an early change of status and all that goes with it. We are, and we're the most trusted profession, but what? Our students aren't being retained in the profession. Many of them lack the caring and those bigger picture skills that are so foundational. The art of nursing is still the heart of nursing. I'm fearing that we're losing that. But, as educators, we're part of that solution. But we've got to kind of hook up our IVs of purpose and passion ourselves, because we can't give what we don't have. How many of you know that you can't fake it? Now, I can fake it for a certain point, then I'm roadkill. And you know what? We're all like that. And I just, I wrote a blog article about 4 years ago on identifying your why as an educator. I'm not going to go too deep in the weeds with things, so I'm going to just share the link to the blog that all of you can download. And so, I've been blessed to write about over 250, 300 blogs over the years. And it's just basically just it's a freebie. So please just take a look at that, and I pray that it would encourage you. But, the essence of what I would encourage you all is to basically identify your why. If there's one thing that you need to do, write down why you went into nursing education. We must remind ourselves daily, because it's a battle. The world we live in is a battlefield. And God wants to use us to serve him with the purposes, the talents that he's given us. And so anyways, just wanted to share that thought and just recognize that you are right where you are for such a time as this. It's not a coincidence here in nursing education. It's no coincidence that I'm here at Keith RN, though I sometimes wonder what I'm doing. I know I am making a difference, and just want to thank you for some of the thoughts and encouragement. And, just basically, Karen says COVID broke nursing. That's really, and we can't get that back, Karen, but there is healing and there is restoration. And, it's really, I just like to throw out the question, how do we restore nursing as a profession and nursing education? We can talk all about the competencies. Oh, yes, we're going to have this competency-based curriculum, align it, teaching competencies, great. But we're broken. And you know what? I think we need to be real and acknowledge that until we really acknowledge some of the bigger picture, issues that we face as a profession, and even why we're in nursing education. Because I look at, if you lose sight of your why, this is what I've learned. It becomes all about me. You see, why are you a nurse educator? Why are faculty still teaching PowerPoints that never end, refuse to implement active learning and be part of the needed change? Well, because it's about them. They're selfish. And I just, really believe that, we just need to kind of reset in nursing education. We need to kind of have the right people in the right places. And we need nursing leadership in our programs to hold faculty accountable if they're not implementing best practices. I think that, it's a leadership issue. So if you're a program leader, you need to be the sheriff. Hold your faculty accountable to best practices. If they refuse, then they're gone. And you trust God that he'll provide the faculty and not just have a body at all costs. And just some thoughts. I'm not, I have no axe to grind, but I also feel that after 13 years, I feel like we need to be real and be blunt and realize that despite all the great information, that we have as a profession and in technology, Benner's paradigm shifts from 14 years ago in educating nurses, we're repeating kind of, I'll talk about with the competency-based thing. Benner said these same things that we need to do 14 years ago. And now it's like the next best thing to teach context in our classrooms. That's nothing new, people. So let's look at why are we not changing? What do we need to do to bring healing and restoration? I think those are the questions. I'm just going to throw this out there. If there's anybody who's got some great insights in the chat, we'll talk about this for a few minutes, but we are going to get to our topic. So I'm not going to disappoint you because that's why you came here today. But I just want you to know that for those that are here live, I just want to say thank you. You're taking time out of your schedule. I want to make this real for you and encourage you. And I hope that we can maybe get at least one or two takeaways that will reset our alignment so that we can make and be the needed change and make a difference, because conferences themselves have no power to do that. Great information. How many of you know you can go to the best conference, but you come back and if there's no interest or desire in the program faculty or leadership to implement change, nothing changes. They say in addiction recovery, if nothing changes, nothing changes. And I think we need to have a little bit of a recovery group sometimes as educators and say, let's be part of that change. So anyways, Sarah says people get comfortable and change is scary. Totally understand that. And, change is challenging, but I think that we need to remember that change, if it's educational best practices, just like, the next medication that's got research to support it, or teaching practice that supports change, we must never hesitate to implement that needed change. And that's really what Benner's paradigm shifts from educating nurses 14 years ago, published in 2010, gave us that permission to change by contextualizing our content to practice, bringing class and clinical teaching and learning together, and emphasize clinical reasoning. Those Tanner's, the essence of Tanner's framework, though Benner didn't mention Tanner, that's the best framework we got. It's practice-informed, evidence-based. Lassiter's got a rubric to evaluate it. We'll talk about that because that was one of the NCLEX takeaways. So anyways, just some thoughts. But let me just see what some thoughts in the chat are, because I want to give you as educators. I'm here by myself tonight. Maria, who I lean on, is not here tonight. And so I'm going to have to kind of play with all the bells and whistles of the back-end platform here, but I'm going to do the very best I can. And so let me just kind of see what some of the thoughts are here, because I loved... Oh, that was too kind of you. I think Jennifer said, you saved my mental health when I didn't know what else to do in the classroom. So blessings to you. The case studies that I wrote just came from my lens of practice, operationalized Tanner's framework 13 years ago. And, by the grace of God, I was ahead of my time. And thank you for that. And even Kim says this. I've been hearing this theme about being a profession in crisis, I do believe you're referring to, Kim. If it's something else, let me know, amongst all people. And so, yeah, we need to be aware, recognize. We need to really empower our students. I like Karen's content or comment that we need to teach our students that they can make a difference. This is where I think that, resiliency is one thing, and it's true. Our students need to grow in resiliency. But the other side of the coin is that, we need to give them a vision of how a nurse makes a difference. Are we doing that? So let's reflect on our own practice as educators. Are we really holding up this beautiful city on a hill that nursing represents, and how we can serve others, care for others, make a lasting impact that they may never forget us because of the way we cared, or we saved their life, or we contributed to a positive outcome. I mean, that is what I love about our profession. And we need to be sure we're communicating that it's not just the thinking like a nurse, the competencies and aligning them up just so right. Let's make sure that we're addressing these softer issues that are really the heart of our profession. So let me see if there's some other thoughts here. And just looking here. And yeah, I would like to ask, Jennifer, if you have a chance, how have students changed over 23 years? Because, we have to deal with the hand we're dealt as educators with our students and the culture that they are a product of. That's another great conversation we can have another time. But yes, today's learners, even Jane Bagley. Jane, blessings to you. We were, you were, you knew me before there was a Keith RN. And so I hope you have no secrets you want to share, but I am what I am, and I appreciate all you're doing at St. Cloud State. But yes, faculty are exasperated with today's learner. If you want to share more about that, Jan, unfortunately, we don't have a verbal option with this platform, but if you have a thought that you'd like to share about that, please do so. Vicki shares, I sense that nursing and educators feel powerless. What nursing, I think nurses feel powerless. If we're brutally honest, we are a victimized profession. We feel victimized, but we don't feel empowered because we don't have the power we should in the medical institutions, the hospitals. We're just another brick in the wall, a financial expense. That's how I felt. In the large hospital that I practiced at most recently in the Twin Cities. And we don't want to embrace powerlessness. I think we need to look at, but I agree with that sentiment, Vicki. But I think that we need to basically look at, we are empowered because, we were created to make a difference. We were hardwired. That's in our DNA. And let's open our eyes. That's what Keith RN, by the grace of God, go I, but this is my best effort to make a difference. And I think you can see, I know that the fruit is there, though I don't always see it, but every one of us in our own sphere, even mothers who are just caring for their children, are making a difference. And so we need to open our eyes to see that and what that looks like. So yeah, some great, Donna says, be not weary in well-doing. I think that's actually a scripture passage, but I love it. And it's so true. We got to persevere and keep going. So anyways, it's a blessing. Maria says, I've got this. Yeah, she's watching for just a few minutes and saying, Keith, I hope I'm not making a fool of myself, but appreciate having you, Maria, and what that looks like. And other than that, we're gonna move forward. I love the feedback here. I'm just trying to quickly scan. Yes, students with anxiety. Our culture. I just feel that it's a spiritual crisis. If we were to be honest, why are we so anxious? Why so fearful? I think there's a lack of faith and a hope in a God who cares for us. And if we have that essence, we can fear not. Even as we look at the crises we see in our natural disasters, as we look at what's around us in our education settings. So I just, want to encourage us as educators. It's like we've put so much focus on the thinking and the doing, but we got to look at the heart and the spirit and the soul of our profession in what we do, and providing holistic care and doing that for our students as well, because they need our care in a healthy way, because boy, they are, there's just a lot going on there. So anyways, just some thoughts, and I'm going to kind of just kind of piggyback and talk about tonight's topic. Thank you for the feedback. This has been good, but let's get on to topic, and we'll focus on basically looking at latest trends in nursing education with insights from the NCSBN NCLEX conference that was last month, as well as the NLN Summit and their focus on competency-based education. And so I just wanted to let you know that as we look at the NCSBN conference, how many of you attended that? And what were your takeaways? So let's kind of reset and just look at that and say, what did you do? If there were over 1,300 educators, so they had a wonderful turnout. I'd like to know what your takeaways were. But this is, or actually, you know what? I'm on the wrong conference. I want to focus. I'm at the NL. I'm on the NCSBN NCLEX conference. So let's not go to the summit. If I said that, I was in error. Who attended the virtual NCSBN NCLEX conference. I was blessed to be the presenter for the educators in 2022. And now 2 years later, they had some practice partners that made some very interesting emphasis that we need to really listen to as educators and bring about some changes. So we're going to have fun right now. Because one of the things that the NCSBN made very clear, and I wish they had done this more intentionally 3 or 4 years ago. They did and they didn't. The NCSBN has now made it clear, it is public record, the NCSBN clinical judgment measurement model is basically its primary purpose and only purpose is to measure clinical judgment on the NCLEX. Done. What have we done in nursing education? We took a measurement model in many programs and we made it into a model to teach students how to practice and develop clinical judgment. Now, does it borrow from Tanner's clinical judgment model? Yes. Does it borrow from other models? Yes. But the real key takeaway I want every one of us to hear loud and clear, and I feel like I was like a voice crying in the wilderness because I said this 2 years ago at the NCLEX conference as well, but yet saw nursing programs do the complete opposite. They began to use the NGN model and the 6 steps to teach clinical judgment. And I think it's really important that we need to remember that what it tells me, this is how deep the matrix goes of NCLEX success in nursing education. It's really a gut check. And I really want you in your programs, and especially if you're leaders, to see, there's some key takeaways that we're going to talk about in just a moment. But what I want us to remember is that they made it very clear that clinical judgment model is not the is not the specialty of the NCSBN. Therefore, they're saying teach practice-informed clinical judgment models, which begins with Tanner's. And the essence of why I have been such a fanatical advocate of Tanner's clinical judgment model and the 4 steps of noticing, interpreting, responding, reflecting, and not the 6 steps of the NGN model where programs are teaching prioritize hypotheses, etc. That's not the language of practice. And we need to remember that we have an academic practice gap that has been in existence for 50 years. It's widening. Our students are not transitioning to clinical practice successfully. We need to speak the language of practice if we're teaching a practice-informed profession, which we are as nurses. And so it really, it's common sense, and it really, it shouldn't have been so hard. But yet the NCLEX culture goes very deeply, unfortunately. And we need to kind of, my passion has been just saying, if we teach practice in practice-informed frameworks, the NGN will take care of itself. And the NCLEX has now gone from an average pass rate of 80% before the NGN. And now we're at 92 to 94%, and we've gone up 12 to 14 percentage points. And the question is why? The other question is, are our students better prepared as they enter practice as a result, or is this something that we're teaching to? I don't know. If you have some thoughts, the chat is yours, and we'll take a moment there to look at that. But what I did want to share with you, just a couple of links that are really, really important. The one that I want all of you to really, to really look at is basically the original article of Tanner's clinical judgment model, published in 2006. And one of the things that if I could give us a clear takeaway from the NGN conference, the NCLEX conference, if there's one thing that I would love to see nursing education do, and that I think is needed, is that every program should have a theoretical framework to teach clinical judgment. And that theoretical framework should be Tanner's clinical judgment model across the curriculum. Clinical teaching, classroom teaching, simulation. We're asking the same questions of what are you noticing that's most important? What does it mean? The interpretation, etc. We're speaking the language and the steps of practice. And that is something that only about 35 to 40% of nursing programs across the country in a recent survey even have a theoretical framework in the curriculum to teach clinical judgment. And I don't understand why it's not 100%. Because just as we had nursing theories back maybe in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, we had Orem, etc. If you remember those, if you've been around long enough, let's have a clinical judgment framework. Because when we look at competency-based education, what's the most important competency or the foundation that all competencies are built upon? It's clinical judgment. So therefore, having Tanner's clinical judgment model as a practice-informed, speaking the language of practice, is going to lay the foundation for successful competency-based curriculum in your program, if and when you choose to adopt that. And so, I just want us to really get clarity that Tanner's clinical judgment model shouldn't be optional. It should be something that every program has as our best theoretical framework to teach and develop clinical judgment. And I want to encourage you all of that. If you've put the 6 steps instead into your clinical paperwork, and you've got the 6 steps of the NGN in various places in your, in clinical paperwork is where I've seen it a lot in programs that I review and see. Take them out. Take them out. It's kind of like we need to repent as a profession. And repentance is simply changing your mind, turning around. We went down this path, but now we're going to turn around and we're going to do it differently. And I know that's kind of hard to accept for some, but I would really sound kind of like, that sounds harsh. But I think we need to remember, let's embrace educational best practice. And though I think there were some well-intended nurse educators advocating the NGN model to incorporate that, the NCSBN has made it clear. Let's listen to what they said, and now let's do it. And let's hold the NGN and the 6 steps and all that whole aspect very loosely. And now let's embrace practice tightly. And again, Tanner's framework is our best framework. Let's go for it, guys, and let's put this into practice. And so, what that looks like. The other thing that the NCLEX conference, the other big takeaway that I want us to embrace from the NCLEX conference, and they had a wonderful session with these practice-based educators, was that they basically emphasized the importance of Lassiter's clinical judgment rubric to assess and evaluate clinical education. As you know, Lassiter's rubric, the genius of Lassiter, when Kathy wrote that in 2007, just a year after Tanner published her Thinking Like a Nurse and her framework that is a practice informed from over 200 articles in 2006, it takes Tanner's framework and breaks it down into additional steps. So for example, noticing isn't just noticing. It has, I don't have the Lassiter rubric in front of me, but it has a 2 additional breaking down the noticing steps that you can use originally for high fidelity simulation to assess an observable simulation. But the article I just shared was an article by Kathy Lassiter and her colleague Ann Nielsen from the Oregon Consortium, where they both teach and come from, as well as Chris Tanner is a product of the OCNI Consortium. 17 years later, there's some great application insights for how we as educators can operationalize Tanner's clinical judgment rubric, the breaking down the further steps of these 4 steps into 11 separate processes that we can further assess and evaluate clinical judgment. And again, have a valid and reliable tool. There's nothing better than Lassiter's rubric to assess and evaluate clinical judgment. And now it's being used in simulation, in clinical evaluation. So that article is a must read for every one of you attending this this session. And I hope that you basically, get a vision for what that transformational change and what that looks like. And so just some essential thoughts that I'd like you to consider, and how you can use Lassiter's rubric in your clinical evaluation and other elements to, again, assess and evaluate clinical judgment. And so let me just kind of take a pause. Those are the kind of the key takeaways that I took from the NCLEX conference, especially the practice partners. If there's any other insights that you have as an educator, I would love to get your insights. And so this is your time. And so I'm going to give you the platform and what that looks like. So let me just kind of see. Yes. Yeah, Dr. P says you were that voice in the wilderness, and there were a few others. But boy, I felt like I was going against a hurricane, that everyone was embracing the NGN model 3-4 years ago. So let's turn around, and I'm excited about that. I also wanted to share, let's see, that was the thing. Jane says this, is the NCSBN out of touch with today's learner? I'll let you answer that, Jane. But I think that, the fact that they are willing to be very clear about advocating for a practice-informed model, I really love that. And so other than that, I just got one quote here. I'll just kind of put Lisa up here. I'm glad you brought up Lassiter's clinical judgment model. I try to use it, but the psychometrics are for individual students, not groups. In simulation, we sim in groups. Yeah. You know what? That's the bottom line is, Lisa, you make a great point. And the bottom line is that it's really ideal. You're going to get the best assessment doing simulation one-on-one, with the student in a very short simulation, maybe just 5 minutes versus 10 minutes or 12 minutes with some of your group simulations. I would just say this, just one observation that I would encourage you to consider, Lisa, is this. Make your simulations shorter, cut them in half, but then incorporate the essence of, of Lassiter's evaluation metrics, the 11 subcategories based on Tanner's, so that you could assess your students one at a time, just make it half as long. Now, again, if you have like 4 students, you're going to still struggle with, what that would look like practically. But what I am sharing is that that's just one practical way that you could basically get a very reliable clinical judgment metric. And, as we look at the importance of evaluating clinical judgment in our students, I think that's I think that's an idea that you should try to consider and try to make possible if you have the facility, if you have the resources to do that. I would also share too that, I was blessed to collaborate with Kathy Lassiter to help modify her rubric for Keith RN case studies. And that rubric is available. It's on the homepage of Keith RN if you choose to, if you'd like to download that. And I want you to know that rubric is because of Tanner's clinical judgment model aligns with the essence of the, that the case studies that I've written align with Tanner's, and the four steps, open-ended responses. You can evaluate the thinking because there's no multiple choice. And so that's really where, you can, another way of you can use an adapted rubric. And there are many other adapted rubrics out there, like for virtual simulation. There's a Lassiter adapted rubric. Just search the literature. There's, Kathy's rubric is the foundation for assessment and evaluation of clinical judgment. And so, yeah, Lisa says, thanks. I'm glad you found that helpful. So consider that, Lisa. If you have any questions, just email me at keith@keithrn.com. And so other than that, I kind of just, I want to encourage you for just, the takeaway of adapting Tanner's framework as a theoretical framework to inform your curriculum at your program. That would be a powerful takeaway and would encourage you to do that. For those of you that attended the NLN Summit, let's just kind of shift gears. See if there's any other questions you have on from the NCLEX conference or anything that you took away that you think that you like to share. It takes about 30 seconds to get them into the chat with the lag, but I will definitely keep my eyes open there. So other than that, with the NLN Summit, for those of you that attended the NLN Summit just a couple weeks ago, I'd love your takeaways. What did you take away that you thought was like, this is a game changer, or this is really going to help me, basically be a better educator with a competency-based emphasis? Because really where we're moving towards at the baccalaureate level, and it's going to trickle down to the ADN, is competency-based education. And, one of the big things that competency-based education emphasizes is two big principles. Is the importance of bringing context to your content, because you want your students to basically get that sense of like, it's not just the knowledge. It's not just like memorize this fact. This is how a nurse uses it. So we want to teach how a nurse will use that and use pedagogies such as simulation, such as unfolding case studies that are going to require your students to apply the knowledge for safe practice. Now, that emphasis and that essence of, one of the big takeaways is that that's something that Dr. Benner and her co-authors were talking about back in 2010. That was one of their key takeaways. And so let's embrace that. I think that just kind of puts an exclamation point on the importance of bringing context to our content and what that looks like. And when you look at the competencies of, and I'll put the PDF and the link in the chat here so that those of you can kind of grab that real quick if you'd like to, if you haven't had a chance to read that document and put that together. But, the competency-based education, if you kind of look at the essence of competencies, what I really, you've got the 10 domains, you've got the 8 concepts, then you've got these sub-competencies on top of the competencies in each of the 10 domains. I'm not going to go over the complexity of the competencies, but one of the things that I just really, as I took away from that conference in essence, is that the purpose. Let's get back to the purpose of the competencies and the ACEN essentials, and I love it. And this is really powerful. They were written to bridge the ongoing academic practice gap to improve the student transition to practice. So this is my fear with the competencies and the ACEN essentials. It's complicated. There's a lot of stuff there, and you got to kind of, going to map this, do this, do that. And that's the heavy lifting that we'll need to do at the curricular level. But really, if I could just give you as educators one big picture takeaway that is not new, but captures the heart of the ACEN essentials, is real simple. Everything you teach needs to align with practice. And so let's just make this real practical. You don't need the ACEN essentials and the competency-based education to kind of look at your clinical paperwork differently. I am flabbergasted, and I had some numerous conversations with educators at the summit. I was a vendor with Keith RN, who basically, our clinical paperwork is 20 pages. And our students, are just so focused on doing that. And I step back and I say, Why are you having 20 pages of clinical paperwork, and why is your program unwilling to change that? Well, then it becomes a much more sordid story of, control, power, unwillingness to change. But let's just keep it real as educators. Look at your clinical paperwork, for example, under the lens of practice. Is it busy work, or is it teaching the clinical reasoning steps of Tanner's framework, simplifying clinical, care planning, etc., so that our students can basically have the ability to just know what's most important, because we're helping them identify what's most important to practice, not giving them 20 pages. I mean, we should be having no more than 5 pages in our clinical paperwork, for even at the first or second semester, and then weaning them from there. Now, I've got a membership platform, Think Like a Nurse, where I've got an example that many faculty have found really helpful. It's 5 pages, operationalizes Tanner's framework, the applied sciences, handoff report, reflection, the whole package in 5 pages. And again, you can use it as a model and adapt it. But the bottom line is that why are we teaching so many pages of clinical paperwork? And so let's see part of the change to just look at everything you do. I would just say, when you look at the competencies of nursing education, let's look and kind of do like backward course design. Backward course design, you look at the end, and then you tailor it. Everything then kind of trickles down from that ultimate purpose or objective. And we go from that purpose, and then we move forward to design our course and all that we do. So how about if we just take the principle of looking at how you're teaching in your classroom, your clinical paperwork, everything you do, how you teach skills, how is that preparing them for practice? And let's operationalize that. Let's make that real and to put that together. And so just some thoughts that I just would like to share. And what I'd like to do here in closing is that I'd like to show you some of the resources that, for those of you that are looking for additional resources to operationalize competency-based education, to improve practice readiness, whatever it is, whether you're a PN program, ADN, or a baccalaureate program, I'm just going to share just a few tools on Keith RN and just kind of highlight how they align with the essentials. So you can kind of see that, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I want you to know that, I've been blessed to just, share my passion and the resources that I've developed over the years to just, again, help bring a practice-informed perspective to our profession, how we teach it. And so what I'd like to share with you is just going to share some of the different resources that we have available to educators. And one of the resources we have is one of our most popular worksheets is Connecting Pathophysiology to Practice. And what this worksheet does is that it basically takes pathophysiology, and if you look at the competency of, the very first domain is knowledge for nursing practice. And one of the things that are the competency 1.2 is applying knowledge from the sciences. Well, let's take a look at this. And what I want to just share with you is just, in essence, how this worksheet basically, like, let's say you have a problem in the clinical of heart failure, or you are teaching heart failure in the classroom. This could be a ticket to class. And so in essence, it can be used for any concept, exemplar, or problem. And here you've got, for example, the pathophysiology of heart failure, identified in your own words. How would you teach that to the patient or family? Then if you look at body systems, question 2, what body systems are impacted by heart failure? And you choose the problem or concept. And then how is each body affected? Look at priority nursing assessments for that problem. What are the expected abnormal findings? Then looking at abnormal labs, how are they affected? High or low, and what are the assessment findings? You also can look at medications, and again, just looking at all of the applied sciences of pharmacology, mechanism of action in your own words, so that your students are basically connecting the dots between the problem, the pathophysiology, patient education, labs, the applied sciences of pharmacology, mechanism of action, nursing assessment, and putting that all together. And so in the membership platform, we've got a resource that ties those pieces together. We also have another resource called Lab Planning, another worksheet you can use as a ticket to class. You can use it in clinical. But in essence, what you have is for any lab that is relevant and abnormal, you students need to identify the clinical significance of that lab. What does it mean? So, for example, if your creatinine is elevated with heart failure, why is it elevated? Look at priority nursing assessments and then identifying what are you going to do as a nurse as a result of the lab. See, this is where we want to connect the knowledge to practice and what a nurse will then do. And so I just want you to know that these are a couple of worksheets that in essence capture the essence of domain number one. I also want to share with you kind of one of the case studies, just kind of a brief overview of showing you how the case studies that I've written, they have a consistent framework that operationalize domain number 1.3, which is emphasizing clinical reasoning and what that looks like as within a case study, as well as domain number 2 of patient-centered care and looking at all the aspects related to assessment, caring, etc. And what I just wanted to kind of highlight with this is just every case study has a concise scenario, a social history, and a contextual factors of practice. But then the questions are open-ended. What did you notice that's most important? What does it mean? And then you've got, the social history. And then you've got the operationalizing of caring, which is the essence of, in domain 2.1, engaging in a caring relationship. Well, now you've got 2 sub-questions on caring. What is the patient experiencing or feeling right now? How can you engage and show that this person matters to you? And so you go on from there to looking at the vital signs, doing assessment, which is under patient-centered care. There's your Dynamap image. You've got the heart rate of 120, etc., and a respiratory rate of 24. What are you noticing that's most important? What does it mean? And then you've got the assessment. What are you noticing from that head to toe that's most important? What does it mean? And you've got auscultation of heart tones, breath sounds, and again, all open-ended. So really these cases are really, in essence, would be defined as a low-fidelity simulation that are helping students to see and experience practice and the sounds of practice, the thinking of practice. And now you've got images of assessment findings in JVD and edema and answering the questions of what are you noticing that's most important? What does it mean? How will you respond? Then you've got heart interpretation, you've got the lab values, you've got the identifying, again, open-ended, what's most important, what does it mean, and where is our trend going? So if you're comparing the prior to the most recent, where is that trend taking you? And then you've got some of the lab planning activities built into this, where again, you have a high creat. What are you going to do? What does it mean? What are you going to do with assessment? So again, we're practicing the thinking of practice, which is really our goal in all that we do in nursing education. So now we'll respond with the possible problems, the priority problem, the patho, and then we've got priority body systems. We've got the order management. We've got dosage calc. We've got priority setting. This is a high-level reasoning skill of an order set of 5 or 6 orders. What are you going to do first and why? And then we've got nursing management of care, psychosocial, problem recognition and practicing that, collaborative care, patient education. And so when you look at domain number 2 in patient-centered care, and now we're going to evaluate and look at the patient status, new data, and is the patient improving? No change. And again, they have to identify the current priority. Is it changed? And then they practice communication, another key aspect of patient-centered care. And again, practice an SBAR of providing that information to the provider and more data. And then finally, an SBAR to the nurse, and then reflection on their thinking, which again develops clinical judgment and what that looks like. What I will close with, and I will have some things that I'll share about the membership in closing, is that when you look at professional behavior, that domain is number 9.5, or professionalism, and domain 9.5, looking at professional identity, looking at the values, ethics, and holistic care and what that looks like. And so I've got numerous practice dilemmas that include topics on medical futility, incivility. This one is on spiritual distress. And again, this is a little slightly different with about 10 to 12 questions that again is just focusing on developing the art and ethical comportment of our students and looking at how we can, again, bringing context to our practice with open-ended responses. And so I just wanted to share that as just letting you know that as you look at competency-based education in your program, I've been blessed to create this membership platform that just, again, provides educators with solutions. And I just want you to know that there are over 300 case studies that are completely developed with answer key, a student version. And the thing that's kind of unique about Keith RN and the Think Like a Nurse membership is that the students don't pay extra for it. It is a faculty-facing membership, which simply means that the faculty, whether you're an individual faculty or you are a program membership, it is an annual price point of $395 per faculty per year at the program level. And what we've done right now for the month of October, we're going to lower that. The annual price was $595 per faculty, per individual educator, and we've lowered that now from $595 to the same price of $395, which is a little over $30 a month. And so you can use these resources with your students. You have a license to do so, but not to share it with other faculty who are not program members. That's something that should be obvious. But if you have a program that you're wanting to operationalize Tanner's framework and what that looks like, I just want you to know that the membership platform that I'm going to put the link in I'll put the link in the chat here so you can kind of take a look and see the current pricing structure and what that looks like. And we'll pop that there. I also want you to know that Maria works with programs to our nurse educator consultant who works with them to do the onboarding or does a demonstration. So if there's an interest, if you have basically 15 minutes at a faculty meeting, give us 15 minutes. Contact Maria at keithrn.com. I'll find her. I'll pop her. There we go. There's Maria's email, and she would be glad to do just a demo at your convenience as a program. And if you choose to adopt the membership platform, she will also work with your program for integration. And so she'll help you integrate it into the curriculum and to all that looks like. And so I'm just thankful to have someone with Maria's expertise to kind of help join me and work together to, again, strengthen how we teach nursing and nursing education. I just want you to know that faculty find this platform helpful. The students, again, don't pay extra. And so it's something you can add a student fee. And the average student fee would only be between around $50 per year. Based on kind of what that faculty price point looks like. And so I just want you to know that we've got resources that can help. And it's really my pleasure to provide these to, again, bring about the needed change that, we're talking about and what that looks like. And so let me just look at the chat here. I want to answer any questions here because I want to make this very clear. Lisa has this question. I may use this after simulation, but before debriefing, you're a paid member of Keith RN, and your case studies are so awesome for classroom learning. Well, thank you, Lisa. Just a statement there, but yes, you can. One of the nice things that I want to highlight, that's a great point, Lisa, is that you can use the case studies as even like a pre-briefing. So you can make it like if you're having if you have a simulation that's on heart failure, you could use a portion of that case study as you could assign one or two questions or all of it or part of it, however you want to do it. I wouldn't do too much, but you could do as much as you would be relevant as a pre-briefing assignment. So you're priming the pump for their knowledge of heart failure. They're looking at a different simulation, a different scenario, but identifying what's most and least important, just like a nurse does in practice. And so again, having that pre-briefing, using the case study as an assignment, you can post these. There's a link that you get that the students get their own student version that they can fill out and what that looks like. And so I just want you to know that that would be something that I would highly recommend. And a lot of people in simulation are using it in that context. And so I'll share Diane's insight. She says, we use this page each week. Students do it during clinical. Excellent, Diane. We love it. It puts the pieces all together, and then students visualize it all on one page. And so, again, what's nice about it is that you're practicing the thinking of practice, especially in clinical, Diane. We all know that we have unexpected downtime. We have, things that can happen. Our patient goes home early, etc., transferred to ICU. And now we need something to help promote learning. Well, because these questions in the case studies are all open-ended, they really do, again, help your students practice clinical reasoning, which is competencies, which is, part of the competencies 1 and 2 of knowledge and patient-centered care. So again, you have a resource that you can use to strengthen your teaching. Jennifer says this, are these recorded to share with faculty? Jennifer, they are. In fact, the easiest way to do it is to go to my YouTube channel, Think Like a Nurse. If you just go to YouTube, search Think Like a Nurse, you'll see Keith RN. You can subscribe, because then you'll be in the loop with future. Every time you do a Facebook Live once a month or any other new content, it's added. But most importantly, go to the live header. Go to the live header on under my YouTube channel, and that's where all the Facebook Lives, and they are kind of technically a Facebook and a YouTube Live. And so the bottom line is you can just go to, grab that link like any other YouTube video and pop it in an email and send this to faculty. I mean, that's a great point. I'm thankful that you shared that, Jennifer, because every one of you that are attending this, I would love for you to get, if this resonates with you, if what I've shared at the beginning, the middle, or the end, whatever it is, please share it with faculty. I know that only a limited amount of faculty can come. We had a great turnout tonight. I'm so thankful to have you all here. But yeah, please get this out, Jennifer. It's really important that we just disseminate and, again, support each other to be part of the needed change. And so, again, you've got the links there for the membership to learn more. And again, Jennifer asked this question. We are members, and I need to get them motivated. Now, this is where Maria can help, Jennifer. And so, again, her email is Maria. I'll pop it in there again, so you've got it there. But Maria is our nurse educator consultant. And what her role is to help any program increase the use and the integration and identify barriers. A lot of times they just don't either know what's there. And Maria's role is to, again, support your program and to help point out the pearls. And so please reach out to her. She's there to serve you and your program's needs. And that's true for anybody who's listening to this. And so I would encourage you to go there and get that going, Jennifer. So yeah, you're very welcome. And thank you for attending. Other than that, I would just love to know. Yeah, Maria's jumped in, so she's here. We're going to wrap it up, Maria, but I did miss having you tonight, but it's good to have you here. And the bottom line is that she is here to support you. And I'm so thankful, to have someone else to lean on and to support the needs of every nurse educator. And so the bottom line is that if you have any other questions or comments, please put them in the chat. What I would like you all to know is that, it's truly a pleasure to support and serve your needs. And I just want to again, close with an encouraging word that you really are right where you are for such a time as this. And, we really do need to rely on something greater than ourselves as we look at the things that are facing our profession and all that we are experiencing in nursing education. And I just want you to know that, we need each other, but we also, I believe, as a Christian, we need the Lord to strengthen and guide and to pull us through this. And it's our pleasure to support you in any way we can. And I want to thank you for joining us tonight. And Lisa says this, autoimmune case study. Lisa, tell me which one you'd like, and I'll stay on the chat here. Because we are always looking at developing additional content. And so if there's anything there that you would like, please let me know. And if it'll be in the chat, whether I catch it before we leave here, but we are. And Sandra says this: thank you for all you're doing to support faculty. We're tired and stressed, but know we have the support of each other can get us through each day. Absolutely. We really do need each other. We're stronger together. And Lisa, you want one on lupus? Excellent. Well, that is something that I will definitely take a look at, and we're glad to support, because, yeah, I don't have that right now. And you're right. There are some limitations of what we should have and what we need to have. And so we will definitely take a look at that. Yeah, for this topic. Yeah, you're right. Some of those topics, what I would encourage you as well, Lisa, is that if you just kind of operationalize the essence of what are you noticing, it's kind of like, can you create your own scenario and even just make your own little mini case study of just having a concise scenario of a patient with lupus. And then basically, if you operationalize these 4 questions, what are you noticing that's most important? Why is it clinically significant? How will you respond as a nurse? And what will you do to reflect or evaluate on basically, and on their status? And that's a very simple, I'm not saying that, I would love to develop a further case study that goes in much detail than that, but I'm just saying, you don't have to make this hard. You can just simply take a short scenario from an actual, to modify, a patient that, or your experience, and then just operationalize the essence of Tanner's framework in those 4 questions into open-ended questions. And you can capture and have a very meaningful active learning application on any topic. And so just want to empower you with just a simple strategy. And so you can kind of just, again, be part of that needed change. And I'm glad to support you and do all that I can with Keith RN. And we've got Maria. And so with that, I will pass and want to thank you all for putting that all together. And Lisa, thank you for your closing comment and put it all together. If you have any questions, Lisa, that you want to just share with me, or if you would like to even help me develop a lupus case study, if that's your jam and you got something to share, I mean, I need help. I'm an ICU ER nurse that's my jam. And so lupus is not. I always look for content creators to help create content. And that's true for anybody here that's in that catches this, is that I'm always looking for other educators and nurses who have expertise to help develop using the Keith RN framework. And I'll fairly compensate you for your time and effort. And so please do not hesitate to reach out, Lisa. My email is Keith, KEITH, @keithrn.com. So with that, blessings to you all. Have a wonderful day. And thank you again for all that you are doing to make a difference for such a time as this. Take care.